Howdy, campers. If you would, I'd like to invite you all to travel with me for just a moment to one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, Iceland. We find ourselves on top of a still-forming mountain above Polar University, where I studied this past summer. It's a little hard. If you look in the right picture, you can kind of see it. We're here because what we see on the left is the experience of a young gap year student. What lies ahead for them is foggy and unknown, but it's the anticipation and curiosity of what they might find along the way that fuels them on their journey. What we see on the right is the experience of a more traditional student. What lies ahead for them is a bit clearer because they have a template to follow alongside their peers, checking off boxes to reach a means to an end. The picture on the right was a really beautiful moment in my life, but it was the anticipation created by the picture on the left that made the overall experience the most beautiful of my life. But more on that later. Right now, I want to focus your attention back to the room so I can introduce you to the two people who planted those seeds of anticipation and curiosity in me that allowed me to choose the foggy path over the clear one. These are my grandparents, Paul and Lori, or as I know them, Papa and Lolly. They were my gap year counselors. But they don't know that, and neither did I until I started crafting this story for all of you. I grew up in a suburb an hour and a half east of Chicago. Every year at Christmas time, my grandparents traveled north from their home in Georgia, and in addition to all the normal holiday festivities, they'd take me and my cousins to Chicago for a day to explore new ideas, cultures, and hidden gems that normal tourists wouldn't know about. They've been doing this now for over 15 years. I started going on these trips in Christmas of 2007 when I was 10, and I hope to go again this year at age 22. I love these trips so much. The thing I admire most about them is the time and attention my grandma always puts into planning them. Every time we go visit them in July, Lolly is already talking to us about all the potential activities and adventures we might explore come December. And when we're on the trips, she has pages of information printed out about the places we're going and the things we might do and see so we know the significance of it before we get there. It is meaningful and intentional. Two things I felt my life was lacking outside of those trips. They were the one thing I looked forward to every year because it was the one time of year I felt like I could truly be myself and learn and explore just for the sake of it. But when I would go back to school, I would forget about learning just for the sake of learning. And I would fall back into my normal routine of worrying about having the right answers for exams and trying to fight through my AP classes because that's what I was told to value. Then, in my senior year, I came across a poem by Mary Oliver called The Summer Day. There's a line at the end of that poem that states, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" Reading that, even today, still gives me chills. This quote challenged me to take stock in what my intentions were. And what I saw was that I was so focused on other people's expectations and goals rather than my own. I saw education as a hurdle to get into adulthood rather than just enjoy the process of learning. And I really didn't want to go to college with that mindset. So, 2 weeks before I was supposed to go off to college, with the support of my wonderful parents, I decided instead to take a gap year. This was the best decision of my life. I loved it so much, in fact, that I turned my gap year into a gap 2.5 years. Now, I did this in part because thinking of this experience for me with a time constraint made me just as anxious, if not more anxious, than having to choose a path in high school, which defeated the purpose of it for me. I had no idea what a gap year was when I decided to do this, and really still no idea what to do, which is where my grandparents come back in. Because every time we go on one of these trips, my grandma makes us write about our day of adventures. And then she takes all the things that we wrote, along with pictures from the day, and she compiles them into scrapbooks that she sends us a few months later. So I decided to go back and read about all the things we did. Now it's important to note that my grandparents are world travelers themselves. They've been to every continent except for Antarctica, which is still on the list. And I think, as I give this talk, they're in China. I like to think that when they were taking us to Chicago, they were showing us the world within the city. We went to Ukrainian, Swedish, and Greek museums, German markets, and Buddhist temples in Chinatown. We went to Chicago history museums and art exhibitions. We ate pastries from all over the world, including a donut waffle hybrid called a Wonut, which is on the right. We sampled English tea, and then we traveled to Central America for plantain sandwiches. We also did Chicago classics, like taking a picture of the bean and shopping at Water Tower Place and seeing the Christmas lights at Lincoln Park Zoo. We ate Chicago-style deep dish pizza and Chicago-style hot dogs, and then we became a Chicago-style hot dog. We also found the unordinary, like a record store with a secret arcade in the back, and a freedom museum where we could record videos of ourselves to President Barack Obama. We even accidentally crashed a wedding once when we were trying to visit an Orthodox church. But despite all of those things, what stuck out to me more than anything when going back and reading these scrapbooks was this page, right here. See, at the end of the day, Papa and Molly would give us this list of potential charities that we could donate to in order to give back for our fortunes. Feeling inspired by this, I decided to design my gap time around this idea of exploring and then giving back. So I started by going on an 8-country tour of Western Europe. Then I came back to the States and volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. Then I went on a road trip with 5 friends across the western half of the United States. Then I volunteered on a sea turtle conservation project in Costa Rica. During this time, I also worked full-time, moved out of my parents' house, and even led a small trip of my own to Chicago in the summer of 2018. I didn't know how impactful these trips were in my gap time. What I did know was that what my grandparents were giving us every year, I wanted to spend the rest of my life sharing that gift with other people. I didn't fully understand why until I was on that mountain in Iceland. After 11 years of going on these Chicago trips, I found myself here in a similar experience. There's a profound quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson that states, "Though we travel the world over to find the beautiful, we must carry it with us, or we find it not." This is why my gap year turned into 2.5 for me. I was carrying these lessons of living my life and pursuing my education with intention and meaning that my grandparents taught me. This focus on the anticipation, rather than reaching a means to an end, gave me immense gratitude and wonder for the world around me. It brought me closer to the people in my life, to my education, and just as important, to myself. It allowed the fog that was there at the beginning to clear, and for my friends and I to enjoy the moments that came with hiking through the fog and the beauty of going on that journey together. So just as my grandparents carry their experiences with them and share them with me and my cousins, I intend to carry my experiences with me throughout the rest of my life, with the intention of sharing them with young people to give them time. Time to be lost, time to explore, and time to be themselves. And hopefully along the way, they will find intention and meaning in their own lives that helps them enjoy navigating through the fog to find their way in the world, just like I did. Thank you.